master's training of his disciples. And I'm just checking what our date is. Our date is our date. Okay, well, we know it's October 27th, 1885. Okay. And I see Jenny's on. Hi, Jenny. Okay, so we're going to start on page 304. What? 304, sorry, 9. 9. 3 times 3 is 9. I'm just checking on your multiplication tables today. Okay. So, doctor, pointing to Girish, of course he would not come as long as I was here. No sooner am I about to leave than he enters the room. Girish and Dr. Sarkar began to talk about the science association established by the latter. Master, will you take me there one day? Doctor, if you go there, you will lose all consciousness at the sight of the wondrous works of God. Master, oh, indeed. Doctor, to Girish, whatever you may do, please do not worship him as God. You are turning the head of this good man. Girish, what else can I do? Oh, how else can I regard a man who has taken me across the ocean of this world, and what is still more, the ocean of doubt? There is nothing in him I do not hold sacred. Can I even look at as his excreta as filthy? Doctor, this question of excreta doesn't bother me. I too have no feeling of repugnance. Once a grocer's child was brought to my office for treatment. His bowels moved there. All covered their noses with their claws, but I sat by his side for half an hour without putting a handkerchief to my nose. Besides, I cannot cover my nose when a scavenger passes by me with a tub on his head. That's because you know what they're carrying. No, I cannot do that. I know very well that there is no difference between a scavenger and myself. Why should I look down upon them? Because can't I take the dust of his, meaning Sri Ramakrishna's feet? Look here. The doctor saluted Sri Ramakrishna and touched the master's feet with his forehead. Girish, oh, the angels are saying, blessed be this auspicious moment. Doctor, what is there to marvel at in taking the dust of a man's feet? I can take the dust of everybody's feet. Come, give me, all of you, the dust of your feet. The doctor touched the feet of all the devotees. Narendra, to the doctor. We think of him, meaning the master, as a person who is like God. Do you know, sir, what it is like? There is a point between the vegetable creation and the animal creation where it is very difficult to determine whether a particular thing is a vegetable or an animal. Likewise, there is a stage between the man world and the God world where it is extremely hard to say whether a person is a man or a God, Doctor, well, my dear young friend, one cannot apply analogies to things divine. Narendra, I do not say that he is God. What I'm saying is that he is a godlike man. Doctor, one should suppress one's feelings in such a matter. It is bad to give vent to them. Alas, no one understands my own feelings. Even my best friend thinks of me as a stern and cruel person. Even people like you will perhaps one day throw me out after beating me with your shoes. Master, don't say such a thing. They love you so much. They await your coming as eagerly as the bridesmaids in the bridal chamber await the coming of the groom. Girish, everyone has the greatest respect for you. Doctor, my son and even my wife think of me as a hard-hearted person. My only crime is that I do not display my feelings. Girish, in that case, sir, it would be wise for you to open the door of your heart, at least out of pity for your friends. For you see that your friends cannot otherwise understand you. Doctor, would you believe me when I say that my feelings get worked up even more than yours? To Narendra, I shed tears in solitude. To Sri Ramakrishna, well, may I say something? When you are in ecstasy, you place your foot on other persons' bodies. That is not good. Master, do you think I know at that time that I'm touching another with my foot? Doctor, you feel that it is not right, that it is not the right thing to do, don't you? Master, how can I explain to you what I experience in samadhi? After coming down from that state, sometimes I think that my illness may be due to samadhi. The thing is, the thought of God makes me mad. All this is the result of my divine madness. How can I help it? Doctor, now he accepts my view. He expresses regret for what he does. He is conscious that the act is sinful. Master to Narendra, you are very clever. Why don't you answer? Explain it all to the doctor. I want to interpose something here because I was looking at the Bengali original of this because I thought that's so out of keeping. So the word he's used, the doctor used, the word is not sin or papa. It's anyai. It's the word, it's improper. It's like it's improper. There's a big difference between improper and sinful. So I'm not sure why that's there, but I did actually check it because I was like, and the act is sinful. Master, you are very clever. Why don't you answer? Explain it all to the doctor. Girish to the doctor. Sir, you are mistaken. He is not expressing regret for touching the bodies of his devotees during samadhi. His own body is pure, untouched by any sin. That he touches others in this way is for their good. Sometimes he thinks that he may have got this illness by taking their sins upon himself. Think of your own case. Once you suffered from colic. Didn't you have regrets at the time for sitting up and reading till very late at night? Does that prove that reading till the late hours of night is in itself a bad thing? He, meaning Sri Ramakrishna, may too be sorry that he is ill. But that does not make him feel that it is wrong on his part to touch others for their welfare. Dr. Sarkar felt rather embarrassed and said to Girish, I confess my defeat at your hands. Give me the dust to your feet. He saluted Girish. Doctor to Narendra, whatever one may say about him, meaning Girish, one must admit his intellectual powers. Narendra to the doctor, you may look at the thing from another standpoint. You can devote your life to scientific research without giving a thought to your health or your comfort. But the science of God is the grandest of all sciences. Isn't it natural for him to risk his health to realize him? Doctor, all religious reformers, including Jesus, Chaitanya, Buddha, and Muhammad, were in the end filled with egotism. They all said, whatever I say alone is true. Whatever I say alone is true. How shocking. Girish to the doctor. Now, sir, you are committing the same mistake. Hold on. You are accusing them all of egotism. You are finding fault with them. For that very reason, you too can be accused of egotism. Dr. Sarkar remained silent. Narendra to the doctor. We offer worship to him bordering on divine worship. At these words, the master laughed like a child. And that is the end of that chapter. Now we move on to chapter 48, in the company of devotees at Champukor, Thursday, October 29th, 1885. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning when M. arrived at Dr. Sarkar's house in Shankaritola, Calcutta, to report Sri Ramakrishna's condition. M. and Dr. Sarkar became engaged in conversation. Doctor, you see, Dr. Bahari Bhaduri always harps on the same thing. He says that Goethe's spirit came out of his body and that Goethe himself saw it. It must have been very amazing. M. As Sri Ramakrishna says, what shall we gain from these discussions? We have been born in this world in order to cultivate devotion to the lotus feet of God. He tells us in the story of a man who entered an orchard to eat mangoes. But instead of eating the fruit, he took out a pencil and paper and began to jot down the number of trees, branches, and leaves in the orchard. A servant saw him and said, "What are you doing? Why have you come here?" The man said, "I've come here to eat mangoes. I'm now counting the trees, branches, and leaves in the orchard." Thereupon the servant replied, "If you have come here to eat mangoes, then enjoy them. What will you gain by counting the trees, the branches, and the leaves?" Doctor, I see that the Paramahamsa has been able to extract the essence. Then Dr. Sarkar told M many stories about his homeopathic hospital. He showed M the list of patients who visited the hospital every day. He further remarked that at the beginning, many medical practitioners had discouraged him about homeopathy and had even written against him in magazines. M and Dr. Sarkar got into the doctor's carriage. The doctor visited many patients. He entered a house of the Tagore family at Paturigata and was detained there by the head of the family. Returning to the carriage, he began to talk to M. Doctor, I was talking to that gentleman about the Paramahamsa. We also talked about theosophy and Colonel Olcott. The Paramahamsa is angry with the gentleman. Do you know why? Because he says he knows everything. M. No, why should the master be angry? I heard that they once met each other at Paramahamsa Deva was talking about God. The gentleman said, oh yes, I know all that. Doctor. He has donated 32,500 rupees to the Science Association. They drove on, talking about Sri Ramakrishna's illness and the care that should be taken of him. Doctor. Do you intend to send him back to Dakshineshwar? No, sir. That would greatly inconvenience the devotees. They can always visit him if he's in Calcutta. Doctor. But it is very expensive here. M. The devotees don't mind that. All they want is to be able to serve him. As regards the expense, it must be borne whether he lives in Calcutta or in Dakshineshwar. But if he goes back to Dakshineshwar, the devotees won't be able to visit him, and that would cause them great worry. Dr. Sarkar and M arrived at Shambhupur and found the master sitting with the devotees in his room. Dr. Bhaturi was also there. Dr. Sarkar examined the master's pulse and inquired about his condition. The conversation turned to God. Dr. Bhaturi, shall I tell you the truth? All this is unreal, like a dream. Dr. Sarkar, is everything delusion? Then whose is this delusion? And why this delusion? If I know it all to be an illusion, then why do they talk? If all know it to be a delusion, then why do they talk? I cannot believe that God is real and his creation is unreal. Master, that is a good attitude. It is good to look upon God as the master and oneself as his servant. As long as a person feels that the body is real, as long as one is conscious of I and you, it's good to keep up the relationship of master and servant. It's not good to cherish the idea of I am he. Let me tell you something else. You see the same room, whether you look at it from one side or from the middle of the room. Dr. Bhaturi to Dr. Sarkar. What I've just said you will find in the Vedanta. You must study the scriptures, then you will understand. Dr. Sarkar, why so? Has he, meaning the master, acquired all this wisdom by studying the scriptures? He too supports my view. Can't one be wise without reading the scriptures? Master, but how many scriptures I have heard. Dr. Sarkar, a person may mistake the meaning if he only hears. In your case, it's not mere hearing. Master, to Dr. Sarkar, I understand that you spoke of me as insane. That is why they, pointing to M and the others, don't want to go to you. Dr. Sarkar, looking at M, why should I call you, meaning the master, insane? But I mentioned your egotism. Why do you allow people to take the dust to your feet? M, otherwise they weep. Dr. Sarkar, well, that is their mistake. They should be told about it. M, why should you object to their taking the dust of his feet? Doesn't God dwell in all beings? Dr. Sarkar, I don't object to that. Then you must take the dust of everyone's feet. M, but there is a greater manifestation of God in some men more than others. There's water everywhere, but you see more of it in a lake, a river, or an ocean. Will you show the same respect to a new bachelor of science as you do to a Faraday? Dr. Sarkar, I agree with that. But why do you call him God? M, why do we salute each other? It's because God dwells in everyone's heart. You haven't given much thought to the subject. Master, to Dr. Sarkar, I've already told you that some people reveal more of God than others. Earth reflects the sun rays in one way, a tree in another way, and a mirror in still another way. You see a better reflection in a mirror than in other objects. Don't you see that these devotees here are not at the same level with Prahlada and others of his kind? Prahlada's whole heart and soul were dedicated to God. Dr. Sarkar did not reply. All were silent. Master, to Dr. Sarkar, you see, you have love for this, meaning himself. You have told me that you loved me. Dr. Sarkar, you are a child of nature. That is why I tell you all this. It hurts me to see people salute you by touching your feet. I say to myself, they are spoiling such a good man. Keshab Sen, too, was spoiled that way by his devotees. Listen to me, Master. Listen to you. You are greedy, lustful, and egotistic. Dr. Bhaduri to Dr. Sarkar. That is to say, you have the traits of a jiva, an embodied being. These are his traits: lust, egotism, greed for wealth, and a hankering after name and fame. All embodied beings have these traits. Dr. Sarkar to the Master. If you talk that way, I shall only examine your throat and go away. Perhaps that's what you want. In that case, we shall not talk about anything else. But if you want discussion, then I shall say what I think to be right. All remained silent. After a while, the Master became engaged in conversation with Dr. Bhaduri. Master, let me tell you the truth. He, meaning Dr. Sarkar, is now following the path of negation. Therefore, he discriminates, following the process of neti, and reasons in this way. God is not the living beings. He is not the universe. He is outside creation. But later, he will follow the path of affirmation and accept everything as a manifestation of God. By taking off one by one the sheaths of a banana tree, one obtains the pith. The sheaths are one thing, and the pith is another. The sheaths are not the pith, and the pith is not in the sheaths. But in the end, one realizes that the pith cannot exist apart from the sheaths, and the sheaths cannot exist apart from the pith. They are part and parcel of one and the same banana tree. Likewise, it is God who has become the 24 cosmic principles. It is he who has become man. Dr. Sarkar. There are three kinds of devotees: superior, mediocre, and inferior. The inferior devotee says, God is out there. According to him, God is different from his creation. The mediocre devotee says, God is the antaryami, the inner guide. God dwells in everyone's heart. The mediocre devotee sees God in the heart, but the superior devotee sees that God alone has become everything. He alone has become the 24 cosmic principles. He finds that everything above and below is filled with God. Read the Gita, the Bhagavata, and the Vedanta, and you will understand all that. Is God not in his creation? Dr. Sarkar. Not in any particular object. He is everywhere. And because he is everywhere, he cannot be sought after. The conversation turned to other things. Sri Ramakrishna was always experiencing ecstatic moods, and which the doctor said might aggravate his illness. Dr. Sarkar said to him, you must suppress your emotion. My feelings, too, are greatly stirred up. I can dance much more than you. The younger Narayan, smiling, what would you do if your emotion increased a little more? Dr. Sarkar, my power of control would also increase. Master and M, you may say that now. M, can you tell us what you would do if you went into an ecstatic mood? The conversation turned to money. Master to Dr. Sarkar, I don't think about it at all. You know that very well, don't you? This is not a pretense. Dr. Sarkar, even I have no desire for money, not to speak of yourself. My cash box lies open. Master, Jadu Malik, too, is absent-minded. You notice that Sri Ramakrishna is sort of correcting him here. It's like, Sri Ramakrishna is like, yes, well, what I do because I think of nothing but God, and what you do just because you're absent-minded or spaced out or just not thinking are two entirely different things. When he takes his meal, Jadu Malik becomes so absent-minded that he doesn't even know what the food is, good or bad. When someone says to him, don't eat that, it doesn't taste good, Jadu says, is this food bad? Why, that's so. Was the master hinting that there was an ocean difference between absent-mindedness due to contemplation of God and absent-mindedness due to preoccupation with worldly thoughts? Pointing to Dr. Sarkar, Sri Ramakrishna said to the devotees with a smile, when a thing is boiled, it becomes soft. At first, he was very hard. Now he's softening from the inside. Dr. Sarkar, when a thing is boiled, it also begins to soften from the outside. I was afraid that wouldn't happen to me at this birth. All laugh. I'm afraid it won't happen to me in this birth. Dr. Sarkar was about to take his leave. He was talking to Sri Ramakrishna. Doctor, can't you forbid people to salute you by touching your feet? Master, Can all comprehend the indivisible Satchidananda? Dr. Sarkar. But shouldn't you tell people what is right? Master. People have different tastes. Besides, all have not the same fitness for spiritual life. Dr. Sarkar, how is that? Master. Don't you know what difference in taste is? Some enjoy fish curry, some fried fish, some pickled fish, and again, the rich dish of fish pilau. Then again is the difference in fitness. I asked people to learn to shoot at a banana tree first, then at the wick of a lamp, and then at a flying bird. It was dusk. Ramakrishna became absorbed in contemplation of God. For the time being, he forgot all about his painful disease. Several intimate disciples sat near him and looked at him intently. After a long time, he became aware of the outer world and said to him in a whisper, "You see, my mind was completely merged in the indivisible Brahman. After that, I saw many things. I found that the doctor will have a spiritual awakening, but it will take some time. I won't have to tell him much. I saw another person while in that mood. My mind said to me, attract him too. I shall tell you about him later." Sham Basu, Dr. Dukari, and a few other devotees arrived. Ramakrishna talked to them. Sham. "Ah, what a fine thing you said to us the other day." Master, smiling. "What was that?" Sham. "What remains with a man when he goes beyond jnana and agyana, knowledge and ignorance?" Master, smiling. "It is vijnana, special knowledge of God. To know many things is ignorance. To know that God dwells in all beings is knowledge. And what is vijnana? Is to know God in a special manner, to converse with him and feel him to be one's own relative. To know that there is fire in wood is knowledge. But to make a fire with that wood, cook food with that fire, and become healthy and strong from that food is vijnana." Sham, smiling. "And what about the thorn?" Master, smiling. "Yes. When a thorn gets into the sole of your foot, you are to procure a second thorn. After taking out the first thorn with the help of the second, you throw both thorns away. Likewise, you should procure the thorn of knowledge in order to remove the thorn of ignorance. After destroying ignorance, you should discard both knowledge and ignorance. Then you attain vijnana." Ramakrishna was pleased with Sham Basu. He was quite an elderly person and wanted to devote his time to contemplation. He's probably like 40. This was his second visit to the Master to Sham Basu. "Give up worldly talk altogether. Don't talk about anything whatever but God. If you see a worldly person coming near you, leave the place before he arrives. You have spent your whole life in the world. You've seen it's all hollow. Isn't that so? God alone is substance, and all else is illusory. God alone is real, and all else has only a 2 days existence. What is there in this world? The world is only like a pickled hog plum. One craves for it. But what is there in a hog plum? Only skin and pit. And if you eat it, you'll have colic." Sham. "Yes, sir. Everything you have said is true." Master. "For many years you've devoted yourself to various worldly things. You will not be able to think of God and meditate on him in this confusion of the world. A little solitude is necessary for you. Otherwise, your mind will not be steady. Therefore, you must fix a place for meditation at least a half a mile away from your house." Sham Basu remained silent a few moments. He appeared absorbed in the thought. Master, smiling. "Besides, all your teeth are gone. Why should you bother so much about Durga Puja?" All laugh. "A man used to celebrate the worship of Durga with the sacrifice of goats and other ceremonies. He continued the worship many years, and then he stopped it. A friend asked him, 'Why don't you perform the Durga Puja anymore?' 'Brother,' replied the man, 'all my teeth are gone. I've lost the power to chew goat meat.'" Sham, how sweet these words are. Master, smiling. "This world is a mixture of sand and sugar. Like the ant, one should discard the sand and eat the sugar. Who can eat the sugar is clever indeed. Build a quiet place for thinking of God, a place for your meditation. Have it ready, I shall visit it." Sham. "Sir, is there such a thing as reincarnation? Shall we be born again?" Master. "Ask God about it. Pray to him sincerely. He will tell you everything. Speak to Jada Malik, and he himself will tell you how many houses he has, how many government bonds. It is not right to try to know these things at the beginning. First of all, realize God. Then he himself will let you know whatever you desire. Sham. Sir, how much wrong, how many sinful things a man does in this world. How can he ever realize God? Master. If a man practices spiritual discipline before his death, and if he gives up his body, praying to God and meditating on him, then will sin touch him? There is no doubt that the elephant's nature is to smear his body with dust and mud, even after his bath. But he cannot do so if the mahout takes him into the stable immediately after his bath. In spite of his serious illness, the master keenly felt the sorrow and the suffering of people. Day and night he thought about their welfare. The devotees wondered at his compassion. The assurance of Sri Ramakrishna that no sin can touch a person if they give up their body while praying to God was deeply impressed on their minds. And that is the end of that day, which is a good time to stop. So any questions, any confusions, conflagrations? Nada? Okay. All right. Y'all sure? Okay. I got the thumbs up from Jenny here. All right. Then we'll conclude with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. And announcements. Tomorrow there will be a lecture right in this very place, and Swami Swami Vedarupananda will speak on, karma and character. Yes. Next Wednesday we will have a class. We will have a reading of the Eternal Companion. And then on Saturday there will be a Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna class, and the following Sunday will be the Swami Satyamayana, correct? Yes, Swami Satyamayana on the doctrine of avatars. So please stay tuned. Please join us either in person or via Zoom, and it's really nice to see you all.